Good morning. Welcome back to our Food for Thought segment for the sports betting picks and analysis for January the 15th. So, we're going to be discussing and analyzing games from the NHL, the NBA, and college basketball. Just some leans that I'll be sharing with you. So we're going to start off with the National Basketball Association, the New York Knicks at the Philadelphia 76ers, and brotherly love. Guess you all are wondering where these odds are coming from and where I'm getting them from. So as you see here, Odds Logic is where where I'm getting the odds from, the live odds. So Philadelphia open up as a 7-point favorite. New York, open up as a 7-point favorite. The total is 219.5. Right now, looking at 6.5, the total is still at 219.5. Although we're seeing some 220s right now, but the consensus is 219.5. All right, so we're gonna do a breakdown of this game here. We'll look here at the history of these two teams. The last 10 meetings between the Knicks and the 76ers. We're going to pull that up right now. Just bear with me for a moment while I pull that up. So as you see, this information is here. This is the information, Knicks and Philadelphia, the matchup, the last 10 games. Head-to-head, last 10, 7-3, last 10. The Knicks, they have full control of this series. And against the spread for this series, 6-4 against the spread, the Knicks, 4-6 to the under. New York against other opposition, last 10, 5-5, 4-6 against the spread, 6-4 to the over. As for Philadelphia, they are 4-6, last 10, 3-7 against the spread, 6-4 to the over. Now, they have played already last year in November. They played in Philadelphia. The Knicks were favored at that time, minus 3.5. And the total was 213. Knicks won easily. They covered the 3.5, 111.89. Stayed under 213.5. So in this game here, both teams here are trending to the over. So I would lean over 219.5. I lean to the over. Because right now it's going to 220. So I definitely would take the over in this game. I would lean that way. It's a lean, strong lean. And I would look at Jalen Brunson once again. Jalen Brunson for points. He usually have great games against the Sixers, especially in the playoffs last year. In that exciting playoff series when New York played Philadelphia, he had some big games. So I expect him to have a big game here tonight. His projected number for points is 25.5. I expect him to go over this total of 25.5. I would lean that way. That's my strong recommendation for a prop for the Knicks. That's the one I would lean towards for that one. That's all I have for this game. For the side, nothing on the side. Although I would lean Knicks first half. Knicks are a very good first half team. So, if you're looking for a first half play, for all you first half bettors out there for first half, I would look at the Knicks first half. Because like I said, they're a good first half team, very good first half team. 3.5 is good. I would take the Knicks at 3.5 first half to cover. I would lean that way. That's another lean I would look at. Okay, so on to the next game. We have Boston, and Toronto. Play the Raptors. Opening line, 12.5 is the opening line, and the total is 229.5. Right now we're looking at, current number is minus 14.5. Total we're looking at 230. A lot of 230s on the board. So a head-to-head meeting between Boston and Toronto. Last 10 games. 10-0. Boston 10-0. They've beaten Toronto every single time. 7-3 against the spread. Boston 2-7-1 to the under. Now they have played 2 times this year. Both games have been in Boston. The first game, November 16th of last year, Boston was a 16.5 point favorite. The total at that time was 230.5. This game it did go over 230.5, and Toronto actually covered, and it was 126-123 in overtime. The second game was in Boston, New Year's Eve, December 31st. At that time in Boston, Boston was a 17-point favorite. The total went up to 31.5. Boston won easily, 125-71. They covered the 17 points and went under 231.5. Now, the current form for these two teams against other opposition: Boston 6-4 in the last 10, 4-5-1 against the spread, 5-5 to the over/under. Toronto last 10, 2-8 last 10, 3-7 against the spread, 5-4-1 to the over. Toronto did end their 5-game losing streak and they beat Golden State at home. Boston, they're flip-flopping wins and losses. This may be a look-ahead spot because they have Orlando next. So I would lean Toronto. I know Toronto has not been the greatest underdog covering spreads at home. They've been brutal. But this is sort of like a sandwich spot. Because remember, Boston's got Orlando. They lost to Orlando in Orlando last time, so it's a revenge spot for Boston against Orlando. So I would lean to Toronto to cover the 14.5. I take Toronto here as a lean. As for the total, no play on the total. No play on the total at all. The total's a pass. I would just lean. I lean Toronto to cover the points at 14.5. Don't know if I'll get to the window, but that's just a lean. Regarding props for this game, again, you have to look at the usual suspects in this matchup for Boston-Toronto. As you know, RJ Barrett's going to be back in the lineup. He's going to be playing, of course. So you got to look at him. Definitely, I would take RJ Barrett and his assists, 4.5 assists. That's a very good prop. I would lean towards that. I like that a lot. On the Boston side, I would look at Jason Tatum for rebounds, over 8.5 rebounds. He's been doing well there. I would definitely look at that. I definitely would look into that. That's another good one. Those are the two props now that I would look at. Those are the two popular props that are common. Nothing else in terms of the props. That's all I have. On my video this afternoon, when I give out my picks, I'll give a best bet for a prop, but nothing as of yet. Those are the only two I have for leans for props for now. Next game we're going to look at Dallas at New Orleans. Dallas 2.5 point favorites. That's the opening. Sorry, it opened up at -1 Dallas. Total 224.5. Right now we're looking at 2.5. 2.5. Total 225. That's what we're looking at right now. So let's see here. So we're definitely going to look at the last head-to-head matchups between these two teams. We are going to look at the last few matchups here. We're definitely going to look at we're definitely going to look at the last 10 matchups between these two teams, Dallas and the Pelicans. We're looking at that now. So we see here Dallas and the Pelicans, last 10. And remember, Dallas played last night and they lost to Denver. They're coming off a loss at home to Denver. But in terms of this matchup, they played November. It's 6-4 Dallas. Dallas is leading against the spread 6-4 Dallas. Over under 6-3-1 to the over. Dallas, they played in November. They played this team November 19th at home. At that time, Dallas was a 13-point favorite. Total was 233. Dallas won easily, 132 to 81. They won. Let's just show you a 13-point favorite, just to show you that. That's what it was. Now, in terms of the current form between these two teams against other opposition, that's Dallas and Pelicans, against other opposition, Dallas last 10s, 3-7, 2-8 against the spread, 3-7 to the under. Keep in mind, they didn't have Kyrie in a few of these games, and Luka's out indefinitely, so keep that in mind. That's why Dallas was in that little funk, and they've lost 2 straight games to Denver. Pelicans last 10, 4-6, 6-4 against the spread, 6-4 to the over. No Zion. They won 3 in a row now, the Pelicans. But actually, nothing in this game. I have nothing really to say about this game at all. Sides, totals, props. From a prop perspective, I don't have anything on this game at all. Nothing here. Nothing on this game whatsoever. May have something this afternoon, but as of right now, nothing here. Next, we're going to go to Atlanta. So the Atlanta Hawks next game against the Chicago Bulls. This game opened up at -2 Chicago, total 245. Right now we're looking at -2, actually 2.5 now, and it's gone down to 243.5. So yes, it's been a significant. So the total, the spread went up by half a point. Total went down by about a full point, 244.5. We're seeing some 244s, but the consensus right now 244.5. So in this matchup here, Atlanta at Chicago, I believe they played a few times already. We'll look at the last 10 meetings between these two teams. Last 10 meetings: 7-3 Chicago, 3-7 against the spread, 4-6 to the under. So they have played 3 times already. This is probably the 4th and last meeting. First meeting in Atlanta, November 9th, 2024. Atlanta was a 2.5-point favorite. The total was 241.5. It went under, and the Bulls won 125-113. Second game, November 22nd in Chicago. Atlanta was a -2-point favorite in this one. Total was 246. That's what the total was. Chicago won 136-122. The Bulls covered, and they won, and they went over the total. Third game was in Atlanta, December 26th in Atlanta. Atlanta was favored by 5 points at home. Total was 240.5. Atlanta won 141-133. Atlanta covered the 5 and it went over the total. This meeting here is in Chicago. So this meeting here is in Chicago. We'll look at Atlanta's current form right now. Last 10, 6-4, 5-5 against the spread, 6-2 to the over. Last 10 Chicago, 5-5, Last 10 games, 6-4 against the spread, 3-7 to the under in this one. Bulls have lost 2 in a row. Sacramento and the Pelicans at home. Last of the Pelicans. Meanwhile, Atlanta, they have their alternating wins and losses. This game here, the Hawks actually played last night at home against Phoenix. Now they're traveling to Chicago. So they're playing back-to-back. I would still I would still take the over. I'd take the Atlanta Chicago over. It's 240. Yeah, so 244 and a half. Let's see here. I look at a team total. That's another thing I look at too. Maybe an Atlanta team total. Let's see. Yeah, that'd be the first thing I would look at. I don't think they've... Let's see. The team total for Atlanta. I would play over. Atlanta over 121 and a half. Team total. I bet the over. Atlanta 121 and a half. That's where I would lean towards instead of the total. Don't know if the Bulls... Because the way the Bulls are... I know the series between these two teams it's been over. 2 out of the 3 have gone over so far this year, but I don't know if I trust Chicago here to help it contribute to get this number over the total. I don't really trust them, especially their last 10 against their opposition. They're playing a bit. Yeah, they've been playing a lot of defense a little bit. I lean to the Hawks over 121 and a half. That's my take on that. Sides, no opinion on the side. Nothing else on this game for now. That's all I have for now. For a prop, of course, you got to lean to Trae Young. Trae Young's been that guy. Trae Young in the assists. You got to go back to that. I know it's a back-to-back scenario. I'd still take Trae Young. No, he's up to 12 and a half. I'd still take over 12 and a half assists, Trae Young. I would still take it. Yeah, that's a lean. I lean that way. He's been very consistent in the assist department. Very consistent. So I'd take Trae Young over 12 and a half assists. That's a lean that I would recommend for this afternoon. I mean, for the tonight's game for a prop. Definitely would look that way. We're gonna look at the next game. Houston at Denver. So we look at the odd screen here. Earlier, odd screen, Houston, Denver. Open up at -1, total 233 and a half. Right now we are looking at 232 and a half. And it's at 1.5. Some places it's pick 'em. But the majority is 1.5 Denver. And like I said, the total is 232 and a half in this one. So we look at the last 10 meetings between these two teams. 6-4 Denver, 4-5-1 against the spread Denver, 4-60 the under. Houston last 10 against other opposition, 7-3, 5-5 against the spread, 5-4-1 to the over last 10. Houston's won 4 games in a row. 2 of those games they've won on the road, and 2 they've won at home. So they've won 4 straight games. They've been playing pretty well. Denver last 10, 8-2. 8-2 against the spread. 5-5 over under. And Denver has won 4 straight games. They beat Dallas twice on the road. They won at home against Brooklyn and then beat the Clippers. So they've won 4 in a row. And now they're at home against Denver. This is an interesting game. I will lean to the over 231 and a half. I lean that way. That's my lean in this game. Houston's offense actually they're an up-tempo offense, especially in these last 4 games on the 4-game winning streak, where they've gone 3-0-1 to the over last 4 on this winning streak. So Houston's showing a bit of up-tempo style of play. And with Denver coming off the game that they had against Dallas last night, and they got to fly all the way. They got to fly from Dallas to Denver. Don't think the defense is going to be there tonight, especially when you play back-to-back. So that's why I lean to the over. Houston can find some cracks in the hole. Remember, Houston had a day or two of rest. They can find some cracks in the holes in Denver's defense, and they can put up some points. So I like the over. That's why I like the over. What did we mention here? We mentioned those 230. Let me see. 232.5. Yes, I like the over. 232.5. Like that one. In terms of the side, no play on the side at all whatsoever. Props, nothing for props in this game. May have something this afternoon. Just stay tuned for that. Next game we're going to look at Memphis at San Antonio. Open 3.5 Memphis. Total 237. Now it's gone to minus 2.5. Total 239. That's what we're seeing right now. So this matchup here, we're going to look at the matchup head-to-head last 10 meetings. We're going to see here 9-1, Memphis is dominated. Last 10, 3-7 against the spread. San Antonio, 4-5-1 to the under. Memphis last 10, 5-5, 6-4 against the spread. 6-2 to the over. San Antonio last 10, 4-6, 7-3 against the spread. 4-6 to the under. So San Antonio, they ended a 3-game losing streak. So they did beat the Lakers. Obviously, they caught the Lakers at a bad time with all the wildfires in California. So they caught them at a good time. So that was situational. Now you got Memphis. Memphis is favored on the road. I lean to San Antonio here. I think the Spurs. I believe the Spurs. I know they've been going through a little bit of a rough patch on the road. Milwaukee, Chicago. But before that, they were covering Spurs against Denver, Minnesota on the road. In New York, they covered. I think this is a get-right spot for San Antonio. They're very strong, and they're very good at home. So I would lean San Antonio. 90% chance I might get there with San Antonio this afternoon is one of my best bets, but I lean San Antonio for now. I like the Spurs here at home. Very strong home team. And I think they can... I believe I lean there, and I believe they got a chance to make things interesting, covering the 2.5. I like that. In terms of the total, no opinion on the total right now. I'm looking at the. I lean to the over, obviously, but no opinion there as of yet. Might have something with the total this afternoon. And obviously, you have to look at some Wemby props. Look at some Wemby props. That's that. He's really having his way in right now. So I look at some Wemby props. Wembayamba. That's a popular prop you wanna go after. Wemby. So yeah, so Wemby. Let's see what we can get here. So we're going to look at here points, rebounds, and assists. 41.5. He's cleared this number 3 of the last 5 times, so definitely look at the points, rebounds, and assists. 41.5. I think he clears that again. That's the one I would look at for Wemby. Wemby, that's a good play for Wemby. I definitely look into that if you're looking for a good prop. Next one Charlotte, Utah. This one here opened up at 220.5. Utah's favored by -1. Right now we're seeing Charlotte is the favorite at -5. Totals at 220.5. It hasn't really done anything. It's still at 220.5. So not really a lot of movement on that one. We're going to look at the head-to-head in that matchup. Charlotte, Utah. Last 10 games. We'll take a look at that right now. So, last 10 games for these two teams. 8-2 Utah. 3-7 against the spread Utah. 4-6 to the under. Charlotte, last 10 against other opposition. 1-9. 5-4 against the spread. 5-4-1 against the spread. 2-8 to the under. Utah, 3-7 last 10, 7-3 against the spread, 6-4 to the over. My take in this game, I don't trust Charlotte to cover the spread, especially when you've gone 1-9 record, and in your 1-9. Yeah, I don't trust Charlotte here. I lean to Utah. Utah to cover the 5.5. I don't trust Charlotte at all. This play is just playing against Charlotte and being a favorite on the road. I don't trust them. I take Utah here. Utah's been a pretty good home dog. As a home dog, actually, they've covered 2 games in a row as a home dog. Overall, though, as a dog, they've covered 5 straight as a dog, as an underdog. Whether it's at 3, they've covered on the road as an underdog. 2, they've covered as a home dog. So I would lean towards the Utah here in the 5.5. Yeah, that's the way I would lean towards that. Total, I lean to the under 220.5. I take the under here. I lean that way. It seems like Utah against seems like against Eastern Conference competition, they usually tend to play to the under, in my opinion. So I would lean to the under 220.5. Next game I'm looking at here, Golden State at Minnesota. Minnesota's a 5.5 point favorite, total of 215. Right now we're looking at 215.5. The consensus, and we're seeing -6 across the board. This one here, as we break it down, head to head, 6-4 Minnesota, 5-5 against the spread, 4-6 to the under. They've already played 3 times already. The first 2 games were in Golden State, so December 6th of last year in Golden State. Minnesota's a 1.5 point favorite, and the total is 220. Minnesota won 107.90, and Minnesota covered. Second game in Golden State, 2 days later. Golden State 1.5 point favorites at home. Total is 216. And the Warriors went over 216, and Golden State won 114-106. Third meeting, December 21st in Minnesota. Minnesota -4. Total is 218. Minnesota, Golden State won that game, 113-103, and they covered the 4. This one here, Minnesota is, he says -6 right now. Now we're going to look at the current form. Golden State 4-6 last 10, 3-7 against the spread. 3-7 to the under. Golden State. They lost 2 games in a row. And this is the last game of the road trip, where they've gone 1-2 on the road trip. Minnesota 6-4 against 6-4, 3-6 against the spread. 3-6-1 against the spread. 7-3 to the over. I lean to Golden State. Draymond Green's back in the lineup tonight. I think the Warriors, they get even in this series. It's a little salvage. So they try to win this game so they can get a split on the road trip and even the series in Minnesota. So I lean Golden State here. +6. If you're getting 6.5, I take them at +6.5 as well. But I lean Golden State. The total, no opinion on the total at all. None whatsoever. Yeah, I lean Golden State. No opinion on the total. That's it. 90% chance I'll take Golden State. I'm pretty high on that game. So there's a 90% chance I take them. Nothing for props as of yet. I'll be back this afternoon to let you know what the best prop for that one is. But nothing there for the props that I see. Next game up, Miami at the Lakers. This game opened up -3 Lakers, total 217.5. Right now we are looking at 5.5 still, and it's at 216. Still 5.5. It's 5.5, and now it's at 216. Excuse me. That's what it is right now. So the last 10 meetings between these two teams: 7-3 Miami, 5-5 against the spread, 4-6 to the under. They played last month in Miami. Miami was a 3.5-point favorite. Total was 217. Miami won 134-93. Miami covered and went over the total 217. Excuse me. Current form right now: Miami 5-5 last 10, 4-6 against the spread, 5-5 over under. Lakers current form: 5-5, 6-4 against the spread, 6-4 to the over. My lean is here. Miami. I like Miami and the under. They've gone under in 4 straight games. 4 straight unders. So I think this trend continues. I think we're going to see another under tonight, 215. 215.5. I think we see another under tonight. I think the Heat style of play will force the Lakers to play the under style of basketball. And plus, the Lakers have been flip-flopping over-unders in their games. So that's another reason I like the under. They went over against San Antonio. I think they go under here tonight, and Miami. So therefore that correlates with Miami's 4 straight unders and the Lakers flip-flopping over-unders. They went over against San Antonio. Tonight they got Miami, and it goes under. So that's the correlation for the under. Under 215.5. Miami. Lakers is the lean. Good chance it might get there with that. In terms of props, I like Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier over 3.5 assists. I like this one a lot. He's averaging about 4.5 assists in the past 5 games. So I like Terry Rozier here in the assist. I like that a lot. That's a lean that I like. The next game we have is Brooklyn Clippers. We look at the odds screen for this game. Right now, Brooklyn -14, total 211.5. The total right now we're seeing is 213.5. Right now, still at -14 that we're seeing here. So we're going to look at the matchup, the last 10 between these two teams. Last 10 games: 6-4 Brooklyn, 7-3 against the spread Brooklyn, 7-3 to the over. This is their first meeting of the season. Brooklyn in its current form: 2-8 last 10 games, 4-6 against the spread, 6-4 to the over. Brooklyn ended a 5-game losing streak. They beat Portland yesterday, so they're on a back-to-back. They're on a back-to-back situation. Now they got the Clippers 5-5, 5-5, 5-5, and then 5-5 against the spread, 3-7 to the under. So this setup here, and the Clippers are 14.5. I lean to the Clippers 14.5. I don't trust Brooklyn. I know Brooklyn, they had bounced back against Portland, but I don't trust them in this spot. They couldn't cover 14.5 against Denver in Denver. They couldn't cover the 11 at home. So as double-digit dogs, I don't trust Brooklyn here, period, at all. Even though they had a big win against Portland, I just think the Clippers can control this match from start to finish. They should cover this 14.5. No real look at spot for Clippers. I just like them here in this spot. The cover, the 14.5. Props, no props play here at all. No props whatsoever. I just like Brooklyn. I lean Brooklyn 14.5. So that's it for the NHL. Now we're going to go to some hockey. So there are only 2 games in the NHL. First game up, Carolina, Buffalo. Carolina favored. The total's 5.5, 6, depending where you shop. Head to head, Carolina 7-3, 6-3 and 1 to the over. Carolina last 10, 5-3, 1-1, 5-5 to the over. Buffalo last 10, 5-4 1, 6-3, 1 to the over. I lean to the over 6 goals. Both teams head to head 6-3 1 to the over. And right now, both teams are trending towards the over. So I lean over 5.5 goals or over 6, either one. I'd take the over. The next game, Edmonton at Minnesota. Edmonton favored. Totals at 6, 5.5 or 5.5. It depends where you get it. Head to head, 7-3. Minnesota 6-3 1 to the over. They've already played twice already this season. Both teams have won on each other's home ice. So Edmonton, for example, were at home November 21st. The total at that time was 6.5, and Minnesota won 5-3. The second meeting, December 12th of last year, was in Minnesota. At that time, the total was was 6. It did go over the total 7-1. Edmonton did win that game. So the third meeting is in Minnesota, and this series, the road team usually wins. So I think this trend is going to continue. I like Edmonton here, and I liked them to win. I like them to win the game. And I'm going to take the over. I like the over 6 as well. Over 6 goals at Edmonton. Like the Oilers. Yeah, I like Edmonton here. I think they win. Like I said, this series is, each team has won on the home team's ice, and I think that, like I said, that's going to continue tonight. I like Edmonton here and the over. Now for college basketball, we look at some marquee matches, but a lot of marquee matchups here. I'll go through a few of them. A few of these games we'll go through. If anything, we'll go through that. So, odds logic here is South Carolina at Vanderbilt. We'll take a look at that matchup. Opened up at 8.5, minus 8.5 Vanderbilt, total 144. The current number now is 141.5, 9.5. Vanderbilt, they are favored. So look at the head-to-head matchups. You look here. South Carolina has dominated the series 6-4 against the spread 7-3 and 7-3 to the over. South Carolina last 10, 7-3 against other opposition, 5-5 against the spread, 2-8 to the under. Vanderbilt last 10, 7-3, 7-3 against the spread, 3-7 to the under. One thing that stands out like a sore thumb, both teams are trending towards the under. Vanderbilt has gone under 5 straight times. South Carolina has gone under 5 straight times as well. And the series, although the series has been over series, the current form that I'm seeing here is the under. Both teams trending towards the under the last couple of games. So my take on this, I would lean towards the under. Let me get the right number here to make sure. Under 141.5. I like the under in this. I would lean to the under in this game. 90% chance I get to the under in this one. In terms of the side, let's see. Look at the side here for a moment. In terms of the side, let's see. Just taking a look at a few things here. I would lean towards Vanderbilt in the first half. -4.5 Vanderbilt. That's my lean. I lean in that direction. Instead of the full game, 9.5, lean 4.5 first half, and then the under 141.5. So that's one of the marquee matchups we're looking at. Second marquee matchup. Kansas, Iowa State. We'll look at this one now. Give you the current number on this. Opened up at 144.5. The total, and the 6.5 Iowa favored. Right now, we're looking at 5.5. The total is 143.5. That's what we're looking at right now. That's the consensus. So we're going to look into this matchup in more detail. Head to head. Last 10 meetings, 6-8-2. Last 10, Kansas. 7-3 against the spread. Kansas 3-7 to the under. Kansas 7-3 last 10 against other opposition. 7-3 against the spread. 0-10 to the under. Wow, they've gone under 10 straight games. That's amazing. Iowa State 10-0 to the last 10. 8-2 against the spread. 6-4 to the over. And Iowa State's been winning a whole bunch of games. They're actually 6.5 point favorites at home. They've been dominant at home. They covered, as a favorites, they've covered 3 straight games as a favorite. Covered 2 at home, covered against Utah, Baylor, and they covered on the road against Colorado. 10 straight wins for Iowa as well. I lean to the under. Based on the current form of these two teams, I like the under, especially Kansas. Kansas plays that defensive style of basketball that has major influence on certain teams, including Iowa State. So that's another reason why I like the under 144.5. It's now 143.5, some books, but I lean to the under here. Definitely like the under. And I like, let me look at this further and see. That's the other one I like. Let's look at this further. I like the under here. And then the first, let's see here. Lean to Iowa State -5.5 to cover the spread against Kansas. I would lean that way. That'd be my lean. And I like the under 143.5 or 144.5. Either one, I take the under. Doesn't matter to me. See what else is here on this board for marquee games. Wake Forest, Stanford. We'll look at this one here. Stanford, Wake Forest. Right now, Stanford, Wake Forest. The opening line for this game was -7, Wake Forest, 142.5. Right now we're seeing 7.5 and 141.5. This one here, look at this one further. This is the first meeting between these teams have never played each other. Stanford last 10, 5-5, 4-6 against the spread, 7-3 to the over. Wake Forest last 10, 7-3, 5-5 against the spread, 4-6 to the under. Wake Forest has won 3 straight games, 2 of which I've been on the road. Stanford's won 2 in a row at home. They have really struggled on the road. They have not won in Pitt, didn't win in Clemson. Although both those games he went over the total. Let's see, Stanford. Stanford's in a look-at spot because they have North Carolina next. So they're kind of in a look-at spot. North Carolina's on board for Stanford. So I like Wake Forest in this spot here because this is a sandwich spot for Stanford. I know they won 2 straight games, but they struggle on the road. And again, they're looking at North Carolina. And Wake Forest's perfect spot. They have covered 3 straight games, like I mentioned earlier. So I like him. I like Wake Forest -7. If it's 7.5, I'll still take Wake Forest. I like him here to cover the points. Those are all the main games I'm seeing right now for college basketball. Like I said, we're going to come back here this afternoon. I will give you my final takes and picks for college basketball, the NBA, and the NHL. So this morning, I just want you to sit back, think about what we talked about this morning for all the picks, or all the leans that I've given, strong leans that I've given. Think about all that this morning and this afternoon. About 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I will be back and I will give you my my final picks and plays for NBA, college basketball, and NHL. Until then, stay blessed, stay true to yourself, believe in yourself, take care of yourself, have a blessed day. Peace. See you this afternoon.